ATP hydrolysis. So ATP, we already talk. I already talked about using our video on our Canvas website. So over here, yeah. So ATP is a adenine and ribose and 3-phosphate group. Is right. Yeah. So adenine, ribose, 3-phosphate groups, but each phosphate group is negatively charged, negatively charged, negatively charged. So because this is negative, this is another negative. Say do not like each other. Doesn't make sense. So to combine together, we need energy. Doesn't make sense. It's a negative and negative. So combined together, we need energy, is right. So this case, it has a lot of energy. And another one, this bond, we call anhydride bond. When we combine together, it releases water. So dehydration reaction. So release water and combine together. Doesn't make sense. And another one, it has lots of energy. And so it's like here, there's a signal is like a wave signal. So wave signal. So doesn't make sense. So it's like this wave signal. It's wave signal. Oh, it's anhydride bond. It has lots of energy, and when we combine together, it release water. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Yeah. So again, adenine, ribose, adenosine, 3-phosphate group. Each one has 3-phosphate group. So it has energy. It has energy. So whenever we need like a cell walk, we need energy, we must break down this bond. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So how can we break down this bond? Do you have any idea? I think you already watched my videos, right? On our campus website. So we need water. How about it doesn't make sense? Because when we combine, it releases water. But right now, to break down this bond, we need water. It makes sense, right? So to use this energy to break down, we must add water. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Yeah. So why we need this water? To break down. Doesn't make sense. And how about H2O? I can rewrite. How about, can I read out here? OH minus and proton. This is water, is right? OH minus proton is water. This OH minus with last phosphate group become inorganic phosphate, free inorganic phosphate, and the is here is a inorganic phosphate, free inorganic phosphate, PI. So I can rewrite here PI. Does it make sense? Oh, actually, first, this left side substrate we call, this right side we call product. It doesn't make sense. And we have an arrow. And we need the enzyme. This case, ATP ACE. Right? This enzyme, right? So how about here? OH minus with last phosphate group become inorganic phosphate. Is it right? What is the rest? Could you see here? Proton. Wow, proton here. So we need the product part is a proton. And another one is right now adenosine. How many phosphate group? 2. So not anymore ATP, is ADP, is right? So I can read out here ADP. ADP. ADP plus inorganic phosphate plus proton or hydrogen ion. Is it right? Is it right? And where is energy? Energy is here, right? So it's release energy. So you had better write down energy here. It's release energy. Doesn't make sense? Doesn't make sense. So energy. But you know, our human body cannot use energy 100% as for mechanical work. So only around 30% of energy we can use work. But 70% of this energy become heat. Class, does it make sense? Is it right? Is it right? So 30% we use really work for metabolic, mechanical work, but 70% become heat. Makes sense? Makes sense. So this is ATP hydrolysis. It's very simple, is it right? So what is ATP? Is ATP protein, carbohydrate, mineral? No, ATP is nucleotide for two more phosphate group, is it right? And each phosphate is negatively charged. So to combine together, we need a lot of energy. We want to use energy. We want to use this energy. So how to break down this ATP to use this energy? Using water, right? So from water, OH minus with last phosphate become inorganic phosphate. And right now from water, we have a proton. So proton is as a product. And without last phosphate group become ADP. So ADP. So substrate, ATP, water, and product, ADP, inorganic phosphate, proton. Doesn't make sense. Enzyme is ATPases. It makes sense, right? And it releases energy, and we use this energy for our cell work. And however, so 70% of energy is become heat. It makes sense. Makes sense. This is ATP hydrolysis. But did you remember in the video, most of exercise physics textbook author, they show ATP structure, not ATP reaction, but they pretend there is a kind of reaction. So what does it mean? It's like this. So they just write down here, ATP become ADP and inorganic phosphate and release energy. So this is kind of like their reaction. But do you think it's really reaction? No, I don't think so. This is kind of a structure. They just show structure, but they pretend they show reaction. So this is why we are confused. Become a reaction, enzyme, right? We need enzyme. But how about ATP? Just cannot be just like this, is it right? ATP need another substrate. That is water, is it right? So we should put the water. And because if you put the water as a substrate part, it should be there a proton, is right? Doesn't make sense? Doesn't make sense. But what is a proton? Proton is acid. Acid. So if your body, if your cell has acid accumulation, it is not good because pH decrease, is right? It's not good. It's a big, big problem. It doesn't make sense. So if we write reaction, we definitely know proton release, is right? So our question is, how can we buffer that proton? Is right? This kind of approach. But other textbook explain ATP hydrolysis like this without water. That case, they do not need to put the water. They do not need to put the proton. See, it looks okay, is right? Every time break ATP, there are no proton. So it will be okay, is it right? But during exercise, during high intense exercise, hard work, you feel tired, is right? It means there are metabolic, there are proton. We call metabolic acidosis. Proton accumulate. That is, proton should be accumulate. But most textbook, they didn't put the water, didn't show proton. Does it make sense? So this is why they are looking for why we feel fatigue, why we couldn't exercise. Because, did you remember many times they said lactic acid, is it right? That is not correct. That is not correct. If they explain ATP hydrolysis like this, they couldn't show the proton. So finally, they said our fatigue, the cause of fatigue is from lactic acid, but that is not correct. What is the cause of fatigue? This proton. This proton. So this is not like a small matter, it's a big matter. Big matter. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So ATP hydrolysis. So your case, you learned very correctly, right? See, this is ATP hydrolysis reaction. This is ATP structure. is not really valuable. Well, we should know, but as a kinesiology major, you are expert in exercise, right? You should know like this. Doesn't make sense. So this is ATP hydrolysis. So how about question, class? How about question? So I think you watch this video, is right? So you guys so okay. But Dr. Gon, right now I'm talking, and gesture and move around a little bit, right? So it's mean I need to break down ATP and using this energy, I should use this energy, is right? So it's mean when I break down ATP, I release proton, right? But why I am so okay? Can you guess why? Why Dr. Gon is so okay? Because I release proton. I release proton. This proton accumulated, my pH level decreased, so I should be sick, right? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Why I'm so okay? So low intense exercise, low intense exercise, or like just physical activity, right? Is low intensity, right? That case, this proton as well as inorganic phosphate ADP go to the, can you guess? It go to somewhere. Can you guess? It's go to, can you guess what is this? What is this? Mitochondria, mitochondria. So these one go to the mitochondria. See, and right now, even I break down my ATP, but it go to the mitochondria, so I do not have any product. So I can keep break down my ATP, is right? And another one, mitochondria, using this is right now, it's become substrate. Actually, this is product, but at the mitochondria, it becomes substrate. And we synthesize ATP, and we can use this ATP. It doesn't make sense. I can use that ATP from mitochondria. Does it make sense? So low intensity, or just like a normal physical activity, right? Why I'm so okay? Because I still use ATP because proton go to the mitochondria. Yeah, doesn't make sense. So right now you understand, right? ATP hydrolysis, not too many universities teach correctly, but right now you know proton is kind of a concern. But why we are okay? How we can buffer proton at low exercise intensity or just normal activity, because this proton go to mitochondria. So as a kinesiology major, right, which one is really important? Which one is really important? Can you guess? Actually, mitochondria is so important. It doesn't matter just normal life or just endurance athlete or even sprinter, right? Is power lifter, still mitochondria is important. We'll keep talking about this. Doesn't make sense. Yeah. This is ATP hydrolysis. Thank you.